Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives. Not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. We're delighted you're in class today. We're broadcasting 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to give us a call, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line. Well, we're having some problems with it, but it's running about a day behind. 605-477-3249. You can also call us on the Republic Broadcasting telephone listen line. John Stadtmiller's in the studio. Welcome, John Stadtmiller.
How? Is this thing open? Oh, you got to open up my mic. If
it's on now.
If you're going to drag me out of bed, you better give me a hot mic.
Well, why don't we tell our broadcast classroom what we're up to? So we had kind of a family reunion. We decided that Thanksgiving was just a day that was made up, and you couldn't be here for the official Thanksgiving day, so we moved our Thanksgiving to the next day, Friday. And you came up from Texas and spent some time with us. It's great to have you here.
Well, I appreciate you holding dinner for me. Well, I wasn't expecting that. Well, I brought the fried pies, yeah. But I figured I was going to be a couple hours late for dinner. I walk into the kitchen, they're going, "Well, it's about damn time." And I said, "What do you mean?" I'm looking at the turkey; it's all been picked apart, and I'm going, "Well, you guys already ate, didn't you?" "Oh, no, we were waiting for you."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's what family does, right?
I can't tell you the last time I had a Thanksgiving Day dinner. I appreciate that.
Well, we're really glad you're here. And Lou Cassidy is in the studio with us, and he'll be coming up to the mic in a little bit. And, you know, I got a call late yesterday, and Craig Douglas called. And he said he was in our neck of the woods, and he wanted to swing by. So here he is. Craig Douglas is here at the farmhouse with us. We had a kind of a neat family reunion Thanksgiving, and it was really like the best kind of Thanksgiving that I could think of. You know, with John Stadtmiller being here and Lou Cassidy, Norm Shealy, Howard Shane was here, Dr. Howard Shane, Dr. M.L. Shane was here. Who else was here? Deborah Brewster and her husband Bill. We're talking about instructors here on the radio. Peggy Gawley was here. So, and then Rick Schroeder, he showed up. He wanted to meet you, and he wanted to meet us and see what farming was all about in Missouri, and so we spent some time with him. You know, Rob Schroeder, yeah.
Vin, this place is so far out of the way, and it's like Grand Central Station around here.
You're talking about just now?
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty far out of the way. It really is. But, you know, I mentioned, John Stadtmiller, that I am, in my mind, I am the most fortunate person on the planet to have the family that I have. And when I say family, I'm talking about the people whom I just mentioned. You know, those who are instructors with us and dedicate and donate their time to share with our broadcast classroom the things that they've learned, the things that they know. And nobody has his or her hand out saying, hey, listen, I was on the air and you owe me. Nobody does that. And it was never designed that way. It's never been that way. It's just a group of volunteers who like what they do, they're passionate about what they do, and they want to share. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. I'm the one that suckered you into doing radio. Remember.
Okay, I have to tell a story. Do you mind if I tell the story about how much it costs to have a friend?
Oh gosh, not the $750 story. Are we going to go gooey here?
Well, I think it's incumbent upon us to tell a story. All right, here it goes. So we're getting ready for Expo number 1. We haven't had our first Expo yet, and in class you may remember me saying that I would listen to John Stadtmiller on shortwave radio. So I decided that I needed to advertise for the Expo. So I called Republic Broadcasting Network, and the lady who answered the phone was really delightful. And I said, "Hi, I'm Vin Finelli, and I'd like to speak with John Stadtmiller." Now, he didn't know who I was at this time. Never even heard my name. And so she said, "Well, he's in a meeting, but I'll patch you through." So next thing I know, John Stadtmiller is saying hello. I can tell him on the speakerphone, and I'm in the meeting. I have no idea who I'm in the meeting with, but there's John Stadtmiller's voice. I recognize it. And I explained about the Expo and how we wanted to advertise. And he said, "How much money do you have?" And I said, "Well, not a lot. Maybe $750. And he said, "Okay, take all that money, take the entire amount, call Genesis Communications Network up, and buy advertising from Genesis Communications Network." And he said, "And I'll give you some free advertising." And I was really surprised to hear him say that. Not to speak ill of anyone, but what I'm saying is he was saying, I want this to be a success. I want you to advertise. I'll help you. Genesis will help you. He kind of thought that they would give us a break on advertising. And so we followed his directions, and it all came into place. So now, yesterday, John and I were out in the veranda talking, and John was telling me that I'm a dear friend of his. And so I mentioned this morning at breakfast, how much it costs to have a good friend. $750. So you gave up $750, and we have been friends ever since. You come to the farm, you drive.
How many years ago was that?
Oh, it's over 7.
And what interest rate am I charging?
We're out in the barn, and I was describing to some of our instructors. We're looking at the tractors and the equipment and so forth, and I was pointing out there's a tractor. That's the one that I was on the air, and I heard it start up. It's a 6-cylinder diesel tractor. It's loud, gosh. It's big, and down the driveway and down the road it went. And I was on the air, and I'm thinking, he doesn't know how to drive that. He just took off in the tractor. And have you ever driven a big tractor like that?
Never.
So you just hopped in. You knew how to use a clutch.
No. You're leaving out an important point here.
Okay.
Your little instruction, your classrooms. Your wife knows how to drive that tractor. Your wife instructed me.
Oh.
Yeah. You don't think I'd jump in that tractor and just drive down the?
Hold it. You mean my wife just said, "Oh, here's all you do. Here's the ignition key. You just turn that. Here's the throttle.
She
here.
told me what to do and what I couldn't do. And if you do this, you'll wreck that. And Vinny would be really mad." So I took that to heart, and I went out and laid some hay down for your moo cows.
Well, okay. So would you say that was probably a large tractor to start learning how to drive a tractor?
Well, it sure as hell beat the thing that I had, the little pedal thing, when I was a kid. I mean, it was interesting, but I took a tip from you.
What's that?
Yeah, you're one of these guys that you don't know the meaning of no, or I can't do that. You're the most industrious, engineering-minded kind of I can do anything kind of guy I've ever met in my life.
Well, there's a guy standing right next to you who's just like that. Lou Cassidy. Lou Cassidy doesn't know the word no either.
See? This is what this world needs now, is a bunch of can-do people. Not I can't do that, or they don't need millennials, or they don't need people that stand around with their thumbs inserted in certain parts of their bodies. Mm-hmm. They need to have the can-do attitude, because we got a generation right behind us that can't do nothing. So we better be in a position to help them and train them.
Well, I couldn't agree more. As a matter of fact, one of our engineers, Patrick, is a millennial. And he took exception to some of the things I was saying about the millennials and how I thought they needed to know how to do more things. And it kind of was like this. Vinny, I don't always agree with, the things you say on the air. And my response was, what? And I just couldn't believe that he didn't agree with everything I said, which is kind of funny. I mean, who am I to say something like that? But that was my reaction, because I was thinking about not the things that I say, but the things that, you say, and Norm Shealy and Guineith Isaacs, and, a number of our instructors, Rich Sheben and Matt Stein, and the list goes on and on and on, John Regan. And how could we be wrong? I really believe the things that we say.
But what you did shocked me.
What's that?
You brought him on the air.
Well, I like him.
Well, and you scratched the surfaces of this young man, and you found out he's a very good young man.
He is.
Yeah.
He really is. And I was so impressed with him. And we went on the air together. Well, let me tell you this. Interesting thing. Over the years, we've had a number of engineers with us, and I invite them all to come on the air with me. Now, not everybody wants to come on the air. And frankly, the first day, 2, 5 days, 10 days, maybe the first year, I was pretty apprehensive about being on the air, really. And so I know it's, mic fright, being a little afraid of the microphone. Yeah, it's real. Well, one day, one of our instructors was unable to make it. And we were going on the air, and we had maybe 10 seconds or so to decide whether we were going to do a rerun or what. And Patrick was, this millennial was the engineer for that day, and he said, I'll do it with you. So no safety net, no plan, off we went. And we'd never been on the air, and we'd never talked more than a couple minutes to each other
Well, and you know what doesn't work, Vin? The old trick of think of your audience as sitting there in their underwear. That doesn't work. Mm-hmm. What does work, I just put a young man, I think it's his third show on the weekends. Mm-hmm. Never did radio before. He would call into my show. Guy he was solid. His thinking process was correct, and he was just solid. Mm-hmm. So I offered him, he called in one day, and I offered him a show. Mm-hmm. And, he said, any tips or advice or anything like that? And I said, no. I said, stage fright or mic fright or whatever you want to call it, no.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just from your heart to your vocal cords to the audience. That's what you need to do. And he did.
Isn't that nice?
Well, this is not radio for the sake of just filling some airtime or to have something to do with your life or for your ego or something. Mm-hmm. This has a specific mission to it, mm-hmm. and it's serious. But that doesn't mean we can't have some fun along the way.
Yep. Uh-huh.
We're going to take a commercial break, and I'm going to go do a shot. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll be right back. Jeff in Massachusetts, stay with us, and we'll be right back after these few short commercial announcements. Okay, John Stadtmiller's in the studio with me. Came up for a few days, and it's delightful having him here. Jeff in Massachusetts, welcome.
Thanks, Vincent and John. Well, as far as preparation is concerned, and I noticed that this is lacking in the preparation movement, which is urban prepping. Most people live in urban centers in this country, particularly Democrat urban centers. And when the crap hits the fan, what are people going to do who are in urban centers? Because you know how bad it is in urban centers.
Okay, so you're asking me if I lived in an urban center, what would I do?
Yeah, a Democrat urban center.
Well, there are plenty of them all over.
Yes, and also
Jeff,
because it's lacking in radio. I'm sorry.
There are plenty of urban centers in the United States, and I guess I used to live in one of them on the East Coast when I had a job as a computer designer for the banking industry. Well, I realized, literally, I was in the 7th story of this bank building, and I looked out the window, and I realized that there were two ways out of town. One was going north to an even bigger city, and one was going south, heading toward Baltimore and Washington. And that was the way out. And I realized this isn't a good place to be. So what I did was I said, I think we need to move. We need to do something different. How about becoming a farmer? So that's what we did, and that was, decades ago. But the bottom line is the cities are not a good place to be, in my opinion.
I agree.
And if you are, let me just tell you what happened over our celebration of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We invited some instructors over here, and I mentioned their names: Lou Cassidy, John Stadtmiller, Norm Shealy, Dr. Howard Shane, Dr. M.L. Shane, Deborah Brewster, Peggy Gawley, Craig Douglas. They were here, and it was pretty lively conversation around the Thanksgiving table. It was absolutely the Thanksgiving table. And we talked about many of these things, and we think things are going to be bad. The consensus is things are not getting better overall. Things are going to be pretty terrible. And being in the city is not a good place to be. Okay?
Yes.
So what you have to do, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but in my opinion, if you're in a big city and the grid goes down, you either have to get out very, very, very early, meaning power goes down and you go, you know what, I got to go now, right now. Now you have to have a full tank of fuel or half a tank at the minimum and start heading out and get in front of this. Or if you think it's going to be bad, but you have to be willing to leave behind the things that you don't have in your go bag.
Yeah.
Are you willing to do that? Okay, that's what has to happen. Or you have to hunker down for weeks, lay low, and watch the carnage all around you and hope that you're not part of it. John, your thoughts?
No, I was just sitting here thinking about the situation he's presenting, and you're absolutely right. But the best thing that the young man can do here is to actually have it in his mind, run through it in his mind, so when this does happen, he just goes from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 without even thinking. It's automatic. Right. It's done, and it's over with. Unless, Jeff, you fancy crawling down in the sewers to the manhole covers and, navigating your way out of town that way.
Well,
what are your thoughts, Jeff?
Well, my thoughts is this, which is I live in Chelsea, Massachusetts, which is next to Boston, and this is what I've learned over the years. I'm almost 47 years old. The people living in New Hampshire and areas like that, a lot of people already made their money in Massachusetts through connections, government work, union work, stuff like that. So the people that go down south and Missouri and areas like that, they already made their money in these big cities, or they were born in that area. Because I had a friend of mine who was in the military, and he went down south, and people down south don't welcome Northerners. They really don't, unless you have a friend or family down south that can vouch for you. So,
well, actually, they do. There's a saying down south: "Welcome to the South. We'll be glad to take your money," but they want you to go home.
Yes.
They welcome you, for a short time, maybe a week at the most. And there's a term called Yankees and damn Yankees. Are you familiar with the difference, Jeff? A Yankee is someone who comes down to the South, has a vacation, spends a week, spends some money, and goes home. A damn Yankee does the same thing, except doesn't go home.
I was fortunate enough to be adopted by Texas.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, thank you so much for calling in. When we come back, Guineith Isaacs is with us. Okay. Live in the studio is John Stadtmiller, Lou Cassidy. Guineith Isaacs is connected via telecommunications. She's live in Australia. Welcome, Guineith.
Hello, Vincent. How are you this morning?
Well, okay, let me see if I've got this right. It's about 2:35. Is that right?
It is.
2:30.
You know something? The phone was knocked off the hook for whatever reason. And I was waiting for GCN's call. I was fast asleep, and I was not aware. And I woke up, and I said, oh, my God, the phone. And I checked it, and it was knocked off its hook. And probably, one of my limbs went flying in my sleep or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, you thought the cops were coming, so you started swinging.
I don't know.
Hey, Guineith,
but anyway.
I wish you lived a little closer. Australia's thousands of miles away, but over the last several days, there's a Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States, and we're thankful for so many things. And so we had a little get-together with our instructors who are local. John Stadtmiller owns Republic Broadcasting Network. He lives in Texas. Lou Cassidy's here, Illinois. Norm Shealy was here yesterday. He's in Missouri. Dr. Howard Shane and Dr. M.L. Shane from Missouri. Deborah Brewster was swinging by from Arizona. Peggy Gawley, Missouri. Craig Douglas just pulled in this morning from Michigan, and he was passing through, and Rob Schroeder came in from the other side of Missouri. So it was really fun, and too bad that you didn't live a little closer, because it was a wild time yesterday.
At least closer to internet. She's in the middle of nowhere on the telephone in the middle of the night. Guineith, why do you do Vin's show?
Because I was actually a listener or a student for quite a long time, and I came across Vincent's show because it was on Ron Gibson's channel, and I used to go to Ron Gibson's channel each day on the internet to listen to the Alex Jones show. And I sort of, I had a bit of an explore of the channel, and I said, oh, well, what's this? And I had to listen to Mike Rivera, and then I had to listen to Vincent Finelli. And I sort of liked Vincent Finelli, and so I started following his show as well. And then after a while, the show just really resonated with me. I found his number, and I decided to give him a call and say hello on the telephone.
Well, it's amazing. Yep. I sincerely appreciate Austria, and you speak the English language, but you do it in such a way that it's just, it just fascinates me.
It's delightful.
It is. It sincerely is.
Mm-hmm. And so Guineith would call me, and she would have these really brilliant points. She would connect the dots, and she would add exclamation points to the things that we would talk about on the air. And one day I said, well, how would you like to come on the air with me, for an hour on there was a day that we had a slot open, and she came on the air. And she did such a good job. She came on the air again. And then she did such a good job, well, how about Tuesdays? And so she was on Tuesdays for 2 hours, and has been for months and months and months. And Rich Sheben is our Monday guy, and he said, it'd be a little easier if I had Tuesdays. And so Guineith was gracious enough to switch days with Rich Sheben. So now Guineith is on Mondays.
Well, and isn't that great? The callers become kind of co-hosting, and then that's involvement.
Weren't we talking about that around the table? How the same thing has happened with you on your network?
Yeah.
Guineith, I want to share something with you, and I'm going to ask John Stadtmiller. I don't know the answer to this, so I have no idea what he's going to say.
Uh-oh.
So let's put him on the spot. Now, let me explain to our class what's happening. So we are broadcasting live on Genesis Communications Network Monday through Friday, 2 hours a day, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. John Stadtmiller has a radio network also, and he picks up our broadcast and our commercials verbatim, intact, and rebroadcasts it with our permission. Genesis is aware of this, and it's okay with Genesis, so that he rebroadcasts our broadcast. So you and I are going to be heard again later today, this afternoon, on Republic Broadcasting. Now, I know of no ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox where this happens. You don't hear ABC programs on NBC. You don't hear NBC on CBS. It never happens. And I don't know of any other radio network that has another network's broadcast verbatim, including the other network's commercials. I don't know of it anywhere. Is that true, John Stadtmiller?
That's true. There are talk show hosts that can be syndicated, that can be shared network to network, but generally they don't run full content as broadcast on another network, including commercials.
Okay, so here's the question. It's only one word. Why?
Why not? Okay, I'll give you a two-word answer. No, look, we had you were on the network. You were early morning over there. I rebroadcast you. Mm-hmm. And that was the show from the day before.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So when there was a hole that opened up in that afternoon, I figured that we just slide you right in there to the afternoon slot. Mm-hmm. It's an important program. I've known you for a number of years. I mean, and our friendship is good enough that I even accepted the commercials as well. Didn't try to cover them up. It's important. You have a different style, low key, very friendly, and it was a match. So why not?
Well, I've got to say thank you very much publicly. It's an honor. I think the alternative movement is so important. I really do. I'm glad that there's a way for people to hear what we have to say, unvarnished, unwashed. You know, and let me say this. Ted Anderson is the owner of Genesis Communications Network. Never has he ever said, "Hey, Vinny, I don't want you to talk about such and such." You have never said, "Vinny, I don't want you to talk about such and such." We are absolutely uncensored. It is only up to us not to say things that we think we shouldn't say, or to say whatever we think we should say. Now, what I'm saying is, when I say it's up to us, we don't allow profanity. That's the only thing that we don't allow here on our broadcast, profanity. And it's just, we're all ladies and gentlemen. But the topics, if we're talking about facts, everything's on the table. Everything.
Well, we used to be known as tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. And you know the funny thing over the years?
It's fact.
It's been proven correct. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? You notice, Ben, by the way, that on commercial or the medias out there, that they don't even talk about us anymore. Hillary Clinton talked about the alternative, although that little neo-Nazis or whatever they are. Donald Trump was calling all the networks liars. Mm-hmm. So here we are. We've been steadily cooking away all these years, educating. I mean, there has been a lot of listeners that have come through Republic Broadcasting and GCN over the years. There is an entire cadre of people, and I always encourage them to walk and talk and to share. Mm-hmm. You may not agree. I mean, I can remember WWCR, the biggest shortwave station, 100,000 watt killer transmitters. Mm-hmm. And the manager of the station, we were talking one day, and I was in his office, and he was talking to me about the 7 layers of truth. And that kind of made me recoil. I thought there's immutable and there's truth, and then the rest of it is just variations thereof. He said, no. He says, what it is you may have a truth and you may speak the truth, but my level of understanding, it is not on the same level as yours. And it took me a little while to digest that, but he was absolutely correct. When we talk to people, plop somebody in the middle of this broadcast that have been listening to whatever radio program, whatever newscast, you plop them in the middle of this, what are they going to think? There has been nothing that is precursored. There is nothing that is, you've just plopped them down. And they're hearing this, and what's the natural inclination to do? Reject it. And this is the uphill battle. It's hard enough doing what we do, but to fight the ignorance as well and the resistance. That's why I said, over the years, damn, we've been proven correct. And we're still here. And more people are showing up. More people have finally figured out that, wait a minute. I remember, I tell the story, Columbus Dispatch reporter. We're in Columbus, Ohio, years ago giving a talk. She sat there dutifully, making notes, sat patiently, got up after the presentation, walked up to me and said, "Wow, that is really over the top. That's kind of tinfoil hat." And she was kind of surprised. Mm-hmm. And I looked at her and I said, "You don't believe what I said, "You're a reporter. Who, what, where, when, and why. Go research it for yourself." Mm-hmm. She said, "If 90% of what you just said was total BS, mm-hmm. we're in a whole lot of trouble."
Yeah, we are in a lot of trouble.
We are, and it's not slowing.
Guineith, I'm really glad this worked out this way today, because I wanted you to have a chance to meet John Stadtmiller and chat with him. So what happened?
We better let her talk, or she might go back to sleep.
Well, let me say one thing. So Guineith called me, and she had information, and every week she's got great information. Here we go, into another break. Guineith, when we come back, you wanted to talk about what?
Land rape.
Land rape.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to duck out of here before the top of the hour so you can get on with your show.
Okay.
All right.
Guineith will be right back. Guineith Isaacs is with us. John Stadtmiller's in the studio. So, Guineith, land rape.
Yep, land rape. Mm-hmm. That's what they call property taxes in this country. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. So I hear a lot of people saying, well, good on you. If the collapse happens, stop paying your property taxes and we'll see who really owns the land. Mm-hmm. Okay? I hear that now and again. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But you know something? You actually own the land. And the corporate municipalities are just that. They're corporations. And all these years, this is, by the way, perhaps the most important broadcast that we've ever done. Because without land, you don't have any of the rest of it. Mm-hmm. You don't have security of any sort. You're a gypsy if you don't have land. Okay? It's so, so, so important. If you've got land, you've got a degree of safety. You've got a way of raising food. You've got a way of generating energy. You know, you can collect wood off the land or whatever. And, you know, you can have a house on the land and you're able to defend it. So you're not all alone in this world. If you've got land, it's so, so, so important. And it should be a priority of every single adult's life to gain freehold allodial title over a parcel of land. Okay? And, you know, if it has a house on it, then all the better. But if it doesn't have a house on it, you can camp on it, as we've discussed before. But you must, if you are an adult of responsible age, you must get a piece of real estate, and preferably quite a few acres of a piece of real estate. But if you, for whatever reason, are unable to care for a large piece of land, even a very small piece of land can give you a considerable amount of security. It's so, so, so important. And, you know, the people who like to call themselves our government, who are not our government, they are a private corporation or corporations. And the thing about corporations is you don't have to consent to contract with them, okay? They've got no rights whatsoever over your life or my life. And when they come to you and say, well, you know, you've got to pay us a certain amount of, they might call it money, fiat currency, in order to do X, Y, and Z, that is your basic inalienable human right. That word inalienable, okay, inalienable, it means unable to be leaned. N-R means unable. Lien means able, to be able to do something. And that is not my definition. That is Black's Law Dictionary's definition of inalienable. You have the inalienable right, okay, to private property. You have the inalienable right to basic survival needs, like, for instance, food, water, shelter, energy. Are these people, they want to charge us money so that we can have inalienable human rights? It's not so. We have been defrauded all these years. We have been defrauded. I'll go into more detail on that topic.
John Stadtmiller, we've got 20 seconds.
No, that's okay. I'll stick over. I want to talk to her a little bit. I'll stick over the top of the hour here.
I'll be going. I'm on a roll, but I'll go the other side of the hour. I'll keep rolling.
Sounds great. Guineith, we'll be right back.
This is John Stadtmiller. I've just locked Vince out of his own studio. We're back. Guineith Isaacs in Australia. I am sitting here listening to you speak, Guineith, and I am just amazed. You know, you've got the same problems down there that we have up here in the United States. And Vinny told me during the break that they actually admitted to you that you're paying taxes to the corporation.
Yeah.
But they don't admit
in writing.
Well, and I've got to see this.
They admitted they were a body corporate.
Well, and I've got to see this because here, this has been the argument that we have been posing for so many years. I'm tired of talking about it, but they admitted it to you down in Australia.
They admitted it in legal documents to me.
I am amazed.
Because I refused when I found out that they were a body corporate. And here in Australia, it was very easy to prove because they had an ABN, which is an Australian business number, which any entity that does business in this country, on a commercial basis, is according to our tax code, they have to be registered with the tax office, and the tax office will issue them either with an Australian company's number, which is an ACN, or an ABN, okay, which is an Australian business number.
Wow. And
I researched it, and I found out that our local municipality had an ABN, and so did every other municipality in the country. They all did. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, that means they really are corporations.
What I would like to do, Guineith, I do a program every Monday with Ron McDonald. He's a legal researcher, very good at what he does. And I've had him on every Monday for 8 years. What I would like to do is bring you on my program, which airs from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. What does that equate to you? 6 to 8 in the evening here. What time would it be there in Perth?
I don't have any idea, but I have got my phone here, which has the parallel time. That's Central Time, right?
Right.
Yeah, just hang on a moment. I'll just get my cell phone. Oh, cell phone's flat.
Guineith, what we'll do is we can work that out.
Work out the time zones. I don't have internet. Yeah. I don't have phones, so I can't calculate the time zone changes. But I would love to come on your show and discuss it.
Well, whatever technically we have to do, or however we got to do it, I don't care if it's 2 tin cans and a string. I'll get you on my program on Republic Broadcasting. And I greatly appreciate that. And by the way, Guineith, it's been a pleasure to meet you. Vinny, I've got to get back to Texas, so I'm going to bow out of here. I want to thank you so much for your hospitality.
It's delightful having you here, John.
Well, and it's you know me. When I come here, I never want to leave. You got to throw me out. All right, Guineith, we'll be talking with you real soon, dear. Thank you very much.
Okay, lovely. Okay, good. Yep.
Okay, Guineith, it was that was not rehearsed, and so I've been telling John Stadtmiller about you and the kind of things that you do, and down in the kitchen there's another guy. He just showed up. His name is Craig Douglas. I don't know if you had a chance to hear him on the air with us or not, but he travels the country. He does presentations and seminars. He talks about food storage and things, and he is like you. I mean, he is the image of you, but in a male in the United States. He travels without a permit. He travels without a permit. He has been the guest of many municipalities. And by the way, John, thank you for being with us. John Stadtmiller, republicbroadcasting.org is the website. Guineith, so he's going to join us as well. Lou Cassidy's hopped in the seat that John Stadtmiller just jumped out of. It's so much fun doing what I do. I've been blessed to be the most fortunate, in my mind, the most fortunate man in the world. Having so many wonderful friends and family. And when I mean family, I'm talking about the instructors. I am really, really fortunate. So I want to thank you for doing what you do. And everybody's impressed with what they've just heard. And you're going to get a chance to talk to Craig Douglas, and you're probably going to say something like, well, that's the same thing that happens here. And either one of you can say it. I mean, you can say it, he can say it, because you've both been arrested, you've both been incarcerated, you've both been hauled into court, you've both been chased by the blue plague and so forth. And it'll be like your brother that you haven't met yet, that kind of thing. So you're talking about property taxes. Please continue. You're right.
Yep. It's a fraud. It's an extortion racket, plain and simple.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And there's absolutely no two ways about it. And if you investigate the actual business structure or corporate structure of your local municipality, there's no municipality that I have studied that has had anything other than a corporate structure at its heart. Okay? And that is worldwide. It's been a problem actually for many, many hundreds of years. And it was a problem even way back in the day in good old England, before there was an America, all the way back in 1612. And what happened was that the robber baron banksters, who were the same robber baron banksters back then as what we're dealing with now, incidentally, same families, they had set up these corporations over municipalities, and they owned the municipalities. They were charging what they called taxes or property rates. Okay, once again, those in Black's legal dictionary, those two definitions are interchangeable. And oh gosh, it was such a problem for the British Crown, where people were being impoverished. They didn't have any money for anything else other than their property taxes. And they couldn't pay their property taxes. The robber barons would come along, kick them out of their houses, take over their real estate. And you had vast hordes of homeless people just on the streets. And then they were, because they had to survive, they were just going into farmers' fields and digging up crops and such like, and stealing chickens and slaughtering random sheep, and, that was making the farmers angry. That these people, they were doing that because they were starving, because they had no land. They had to survive. And they were camping by the side of the road, which was an eyesore, of course. But what could they do? The municipality had kicked them off their land. So not much has changed in 400 years. And so the British Crown, they came along. The British Crown hasn't been all bad. They came along, and it was James I, who was the same King James as the King James Bible. And he said, listen, we're going to put this law out there. No more corporate municipalities. No more new corporate municipalities. Okay? They're a bad idea. If there's a corporate municipality that's already been set up, we'll let it continue. So that's why you have the City of London as a corporate municipality, okay? But under the law that was set up under James I of King James Bible fame, he allowed the existing corporate municipalities to continue, basically because he would have been making a war against the banksters. So that would have been, the Rothschilds and other powerful families like, the Washingtons and the Clintons, who were all powerful families at the time. You go back and they're all there. It's the same cast of characters. It's the Washingtons, it's the Clintons, it's the Bushes, it's the Rothschilds, it's the whole lot of them, and they were all there in England at the time, and they've all gone down through history and had their various, little moments. But they've been powerful families for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And anyway, they said, okay, no more new corporate municipalities. Any municipality that is a corporation that is already in existence, we will allow you to stay, but no new ones. And that principle went over to the United States when the United States Constitution was set up and the Declaration of Independence. And I'm sure somewhere in there, in the Declaration, in fact, I know that there's a right to private property in the Declaration of Independence and in the, in the constitutional amendments. Isn't that right, Vincent?
Well, I'm not an expert in that, so yeah, I'm not an expert in that, but I'm sure we've got in our class some experts, and they can come to the fore.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think it might even be somewhere in the Second Amendment, because, anyway, I'm not an expert in American constitutional law, and by the way, none of this is legal advice. This is research that anyone can do, and this is education.
Guineith and I will be right back. Lou Cassidy is in the studio with me, and he's going to be joining in, and then Craig Douglas is going to join us. Class, don't touch that dial. What you've learned is something that we have not learned in school. We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia. Lou Cassidy is in the studio. Lou, you had a question for Guineith Isaacs.
Yeah, Guineith, you're at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:25 in the morning, right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, and that would be Tuesday morning. You're a day ahead of us now?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so you're Tuesday morning. Okay, that's what I thought. Right.
Yep.
Luke, Guineith, Lou Cassidy has developed with Dr. Norman Shealy 2 electronic devices. One is the adrenomedullin scalar energy device, which I have used for, I had one of the prototypes, one of the very, very early prototypes, and I said on the air that it absolutely works. And Lou and Norm Shealy brought the PIMF device, the pulsed electromagnetic frequency device, and I have that too. as well. So that's who Lou Cassidy is. He's an electrical engineer, brilliant guy, and it is so neat, literally, to be in the presence of so many brilliant people, and I'm looking forward to you coming to the United States or us coming over to visit you. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be great. Yep. And I'll tell you what, maybe one day when I'm a millionaire, I'll come over and see you. Okay?
That would be.
And yes, I do have plans on becoming a millionaire one day. Yeah.
Well,
so
heck,
you'll never become a millionaire if you don't plan to.
Have you checked on Bitcoin? Have you checked on Bitcoin recently?
Gobsmacked. Has it gone 10,000 yet? It was pushing.
I'm going to give you the exact.
This afternoon. I was so excited.
Well, I mean, we're right on the edge of 10. We're right on the edge of $10,000, $9,670. You and Miles must be smiling from ear to ear because you said this kind of thing was going to happen.
I am. I was listening to, a podcast, another podcast that I listened to, somebody by the name of JSnip4. You should get JSnip4 on your show. He has a YouTube channel, and he talks a lot about Bitcoin and also other cryptocurrencies. And he's actually quite a good friend of Cliff High. So
yes.
It's a small, small world.
Yes, now Cliff High... Cliff High, as you know, is one of us. He's one of our instructors.
That's right. Yeah, but...
it is a small world.
JSnip4 and Cliff High and Bix Weir, they have a podcast that they do sometimes called the Three Amigos podcast. And there's a rather interesting meme floating around the internet of JSnip4 and Cliff High and Bix Weir being, I think they put, on this poster, they put Cliff High as being Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they put JSnip4 as being Luke Skywalker, and they put Bix Weir as being Yoda.
You know what's interesting?
Weir or not.
I've watched the videos of the Three Amigos, and class, if you want to know how to spell JSnip4, it's JSNIP, the number 4, JSnip4, JSNIP 4. You go to YouTube and you can type that in, and you'll find some of the videos there. The Three Amigos. And the three of them are on video. Yep.
I was building a fence line today, an internal paddock, and listening to JSnip4's latest podcast on my phone as a download, while I was working, and I was just, doing all the wiring in, and I was just smiling because I'd checked my Bitcoin account earlier in the day, and I actually saw it go to 9,730. Which is absolutely amazing. It was there briefly, and it sort of pulled back a little bit. But yeah, it did actually hit 9,730.
Well, it's only down $60, and being down only $60 is nothing. Bitcoin when I got focused on it was $750, and now it's right this second is $9,670. Yeah, that's right. We'll be right back.
Yep.
With Guineith Isaacs. Lou, do you have a quick comment? Lou's good. Okay, we'll be right back. Class, Guineith Isaacs is live with us in Australia. Craig Douglas has just jumped in the seat that Lou Cassidy just had a few minutes ago, that John Stadtmiller had a few minutes before that. And I would like to introduce Guineith Isaacs to Craig Douglas. Welcome, Craig Douglas.
Hello, Vincent and Guineith.
Craig has been an instructor with us for years. He's been to the Get Prepared Expos, and he's given seminars, and he's been on the radio with us over the years many times, but never been to the farm, right, Craig?
First time for me.
First time. I'm so glad you were able to make it. And we got a call yesterday, late yesterday, and Craig said he was coming this way, and we said that's really, really neat. We asked John Stadtmiller to stay. He was going to leave earlier, and he agreed to stay, and so here we all are. Guineith, let me just introduce both of you. Craig Douglas is he's a free spirit. He travels without a government-authorized certificate that says he has agreed to their terms and conditions, and he has been a guest for doing so. Wouldn't you say that, Craig?
Yeah, guest is a loose word, but yes. An involuntary guest? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm saying you've been kidnapped by the blue team.
Yes.
Because you didn't have their certificate of approval to operate a vehicle on the highways and byways of the United States.
A number of times, yes.
Yes. And but you refused to get one, and you're not willing to give in, right?
Well, essentially, I can't get one, because I don't have the Social Security number either.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You want to share with Guineith what that's all about?
Well, I don't know what you have in Australia, but here in our wonderful socialist republic of the United States, we have to have a Social Security number. At least people think we have to have a Social Security number in order to live and work in this country. And of course, that's not true, but in order to get your permission to travel upon my roads, we have to get a Social Security number in order to do that. I don't know what it is like in Australia, but that's what it's perceived to be here. So I just exercise my free rights. I'm not going to allow somebody to tell me I can't go anywhere just because I didn't volunteer into a voluntary system. So that's the way I do. The way I look at it.
Guineith, any comments? Guineith, are you with us? I think. Let's see. Where's Guineith? Looks like she's there, but I don't hear her. Do we need to bring up Guineith's volume, Kyle? Well, let's continue. I don't know where Guineith is. It looks like she's connected. From everything I can see, she's connected, but I don't see any audio. Well, let's continue while we get Guineith back. So, Kyle, please. See if we can get Guineith back into the broadcast. So, Craig, what's it like out there? What have you seen lately? You've been traveling. You've been speaking at preparedness expos and so forth. What are the people whom you meet saying? Are they concerned? Are they not concerned? Is everything okay? Are the shows growing? Are they in decline? What's happening?
Well, you know what? For the last year now, since Donald Trump has become president, what I've seen and what we've seen not only at preparedness expos, but a lot of shows, gun shows as well, we have seen a decline in the vendors' our monetary gains. Things have just been really bad for the vendors. The attendance does seem to be down. And overall, probably unlike a lot of your audience, Americans in general, and maybe the human race in general, are more reactionary rather than preparing, really truly preparing.
That's true.
And so what we see is, especially with what I do with radiation, I see these spikes where something is in the news, and then all of a sudden you have more business. And that's unfortunate. That's certainly not the way to prepare, because then you're actually just reacting to something that may have already happened, and then that's usually too late. That's not the right time to prepare. So we've been seeing that. I saw a spike about 6 weeks ago. I was doing a show in New Orleans where Donald Trump and Rocket Boy were arguing back and forth. I know you are, but what am I? And we saw a spike in sales for the radiation stuff then. But other than that, it hasn't been since Fukushima since I saw any kind of spikes. Saw a little bit of spike, for instance, a couple of years ago, the Ebola scare. Big increase in gas mask sales and also freeze-dried food. Yeah. And we see these little minor blips here and there of something in the news. But it takes some kind of news to get most Americans to actually do something. And that's really unfortunate. So the shows have been suffering. Apparently, the Donald Trump effect, we call them, it's probably better that we have him than Billary. I mean, I think we got to agree there. But Americans seem to be complacent about it. So, well, we don't have to worry about a thing now. when we might just be one tweet away from Armageddon. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's been in decline. All the prepper shows, not just any one particular company, but the gun shows too. Anybody across the country can probably tell you, because I do shows all over the country, can tell you that both the gun shows and the preparedness expos are in decline and have been for about a year now.
And what are the people who are in attendance, and we'll call them the guests of these shows, whether they be prepper shows or gun shows? What are they saying? Do they think everything's okay? Or are they saying that they're broke? What are they saying? I'm not talking about the exhibitors. I'm not talking about the speakers. I'm not talking about the vendors. I'm talking about the guests.
Well, the guests are sort of a different breed, probably a lot like your audience that listens to your program, because they are there because it's a preparedness expo. So they are actually interested in preparing. Mm-hmm. There's just less of them. And again, we see these spikes of the wannabes, I guess you will, the ones that aren't truly preppers, come and react to these crises that they hear on the news or some kind of fear they see on the internet. Mm-hmm. That's what we're seeing. So the people walking into the expos, I don't see any big change there. They're still the people that really are interested in preparing and attend the seminars and so on.
Craig, you sell freeze-dried foods and other preparedness items. 5 years ago there was a lot of sales in freeze-dried foods. People were buying packets and buckets of freeze-dried food because they thought that they needed it. Is that still the same feeling, or is it different now? Well,
I presume you're talking about the scare of the Mayan calendar. We have these another internet rumor. We get Y2K, if everybody's old enough to remember that. We get these spikes from some sort of bogus prediction, essentially, and that shouldn't happen. It should be a steady sales no matter what. We shouldn't see these spikes because the people who are jumping on the bandwagon, they're reacting. They're not actually preparing.
That's a really, really good point, and it's accurate. Craig, years ago, I thought, well, there's 5% of us. 5% of the people are paying attention to what's happening, watching the news, digesting the news, and preparing for what they see potential problems being. Then I thought, well, I think I'm off. I don't think it's 5%. I think it's 3%. And then I thought some more over the years. I thought, no, it's 1%. My new number for the last year at least has been 1/10 of 1%. Does that jive with what you're seeing, or do you think my numbers are wrong?
I don't really have a good basis to judge that. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting behind a table and I'm expecting the promoter to bring customers into the door. Mm-hmm. And based on what I see online on my radio shows and my YouTube channel, I don't generally get a good feel for that. I do talk to people all the time. I just really have no clue as how many people are out there, of the American people, that are actually interested in this sort of thing or actually preparing and concerned about what could happen.
Okay. Tell us about how can we see you on YouTube?
My YouTube channel is, the easiest way is to go to YouTube, go to the search box, and enter in the word, as one word, Forbid TV. Forbid spelled with 2 Ds. So Forbid TV, one word. That's easy. And just put in the word Forbid TV channel, and you'll come up the channel. It's very easy to spot my channel because it's got the Civil Defense logo as the main icon. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to find.
Yellow and black.
Red, white, and blue, actually, no black.
Oh, okay.
Like
I was thinking radiation.
Meters.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the radiation symbol. Yeah.
Okay. When I think of Craig Douglas, I think of a guy who's wearing yellow and black at these conventions, and that's why that came to mind. The radiation. Okay, so the Civil Defense. FORBIDD TV?
Yes, no space between TV. Forbid TV.
One more time. FORBIDD TV, and then the word channel. And you'll find Craig Douglas. And tell us about your radio show.
My radio show, I seem to be getting a lot more attention from my YouTube channel these days than my radio show. I've been in and out of radio since 2001 is when I started in radio. And I'm on the Liberty Tree Radio Network. It's a different network, a very small network. It's sometimes referred to as a militia network, so it's a little bit different type of crowd. But I'm on that network. I'm only on 1 hour a week on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Do you find that? And how do we listen to you?
You'll have to find the Liberty Tree Radio Network. You can either go to their website, libertytreeradio.com.4mg, I think is the way you find out there. Or you can go to forbiddenknowledge.info. That's my website. You can find, I think I have links. Maybe I'll have to update it. But you can have links there. You can either call in or I don't know if it may be on some shortwave networks. It may be on, you have to look around. I don't really know all the people that listen to me. I don't have nearly as big of an audience as you or say John Stadtmiller. It's a very small audience from what I'm seeing. How do you spell your radio show so that those listening can write it down? Basically 2 words: forbidden knowledge. Forbidden, just the common spellings for both. 2 D's in forbidden, and knowledge starting with a K-N, KNOLOWLEDGE. Right. It's common spelling. Dot what? Well, this website name, my particular website is forbiddenknowledge.info. Okay. Forbiddenknowledge.info. Okay. So, Craig, as you meet people, do you find people who say, "Oh, I heard you on the radio. I heard you on your YouTube channel"? Do you find people meet you and they're all excited to see you in person? Sometimes. Actually, there was one yesterday that looked maybe he wanted to punch me out. I'm not sure. Because I do a lot of things that make people angry. You know, when you tell somebody that they're not going to die from radiation from Fukushima, somehow they get really angry at you. When you prove it, too, they get angry. So I do some debunking of things that makes people angry. And so sometimes that's a problem. But mostly it's YouTube recognition now, not so much the radio. Okay. Kyle, do we have Guineith back? Now, let's see what's going on with Guineith. Guineith, are you there? Guineith, are you with us? Oh, I see we have a connection, but I don't see Guineith. We'll be right back. Guineith Isaacs is back with us live in Australia. Craig Douglas is in the studio with me. And Craig, would you share with Guineith briefly, so she can have a chance to comment in the last segment that we're in right now, what it's like traveling in the United States without a government-approved certificate? Well, it's hard fraught with problems, obviously. Probably just like it is in Australia. If you don't get permission to use the roads you paid for, they seem to have a problem with it. They want you not only to pay more for those roads through the licensing and insurance and so on, but they also want to basically kidnap you if you do not have that paper that says that you can travel freely upon my roads. It's a contract that I just don't engage in because I cannot engage in that contract since I do not have the Social Security number. In this country, we seem to think, Americans generally seem to think you have to have that number, that other contract, in order to travel freely upon the roads or to live and work in this country. And it's just not true, but that's what most people think. All right. And let's talk about that Social Security number a little bit more and what else that causes inconveniences for. Well, without the Social Security number, not only can you not get a driver's license, you can't get a state-issued ID. Can't get a passport. The passport you should be able to get, but I haven't been able to get it without basically have to sue the Department of State in order to get a passport. You can't get a bank account, can't get credit cards. There's a lot of things that on the surface you can't. There are ways around some of these things. But basically, if you go by the way they want the system, they make it almost impossible for you to do anything without that Social Security number. If I go to a doctor other than, Dr. Norman Shealy, it's okay, what's your birth date? And they use my SSN. Now, how does that impact you if you need to visit a doctor? Same thing? I do happen to know a doctor that is actually a medical doctor that's in the alternative, so I'm fortunate there. That would be my best bet if I was trying to do something. Okay. And in fact, this doctor does not even take, as a medical doctor, does not take insurance anyway. But if you were like most people, would it be difficult for you to get medical attention? Well, probably so. If I were to get in an accident of some sort and they'd have to scrape me off the highway and put me in a hospital, I have no idea how difficult it's going to be. I presume I would still be treated anyway, just because that's the way our system kind of works. Even if you can't pay or won't pay, they still sort of treat you. But I don't really know how difficult it's going to be because if I'm conscious to try to give them the information they want, I don't have the information they want. Guineith, your comments on this? Guineith, are you with us?
It shows that Guineith is with us. Guineith, are you there? Let me try this. Guineith, are you there? Guineith? I don't know what's happened to Guineith. This is the first time we've had these kinds of problems connecting with Guineith at this level.
Must be me.
It's not you. And I was really hoping that you would get a chance to chat with her, because it's like you're related. You've experienced the same kinds of things, the kidnapping, you've been kidnapped and then you've been released, but they kept everything, your wallet, everything that you had, right?
The latest one, yes, but the latest one that happened to me, they did actually, not only did they kidnap me, and that's where I live too, essentially. I was basically on the streets.
We're talking about the police.
4 or 5 days, yeah.
We're talking about the police arresting you, okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And they, and they refused to give my van back, saying that I didn't have, it's difficult without the number. They wouldn't give me my van back. They had 4 requirements in order to get your property back: proof of ownership, driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. And I think there might have been one other things, which were basically all of them were impossible for me. I had bought the van. In the van with me, I had the certificate of purchase. I had the previous owner's certificate signed off, and I had a bill of sale, so I could prove it was mine. They wouldn't accept that. So basically, they were refusing to return my property. Period.
And so they turned you out on the street and kept all of your money, everything that you needed to get by, right?
They let me get back into my van to get some money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they turned you out on the street.
Yep.
And you had to fend for yourself.
But what I ended up having to do was basically find somebody I knew, sell the van to them, get it all in their name, get all the proper paperwork, and then basically I buy the van back from them. There's an easy lawsuit there, and I need to file a federal lawsuit over that.
I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to hearing about your success. Class, we're out of time. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.